Hello everyone, my name is the Fox. I'm going to be reviewing the Chuwi Hi10 Pro Ultrabook tablet PC. I want to thank GearBest for providing this review sample for me so that I could do this video. Additionally, they're having a 3rd-year anniversary on their site. They're having a big promotion. You can see right now it's going, this tablet with the dock itself is going for $200, so it's pretty competitively priced for this promotional period. Outside of that, you could also just buy the keyboard dock and the pen itself. All of these links are available in the description field below. How this review is going to be is initially the first part of it is going to be a lightning review, and then the last part is going to be a more in-depth review, and you get to see a little bit more going on in the back end. It's about 20 to 25 minutes. I also review all the BIOS settings. There's a tremendous amount, so if you're interested in that, by all means, take a look at it. If you think you got all you needed out of the first 5 minutes, that's cool as well. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Just I hope you enjoy. So that said, let's get into the lightning review. The Chuwi Hi10 Pro has Android 5.1 and Windows 10. Windows 10 is the anniversary build, so it's build 1607. It has all the latest updates. The weird thing that you have to be conscious of is that if there are any updates, like the Content Creator update for Windows when that comes out later in the year, it might break some of the things in this tablet. It might not. You got to be careful because of all the different partitioning that happens on this guy. The chipset is X5Z8350, so it's the best 8300 series that came out, the best low-end Cherry Trail that you'll be able to get. Performance-wise, you shouldn't anticipate too much. It works very well in Android. It also has a sensational amount of RAM for Android. 4 gigs of RAM for Android in a tablet mode is really good. Performance on Windows side of things is also really good. The display is 10.1-inch IPS touchscreen. It's 10 points of capacitive touch. The resolution is 1920 by 1200. And I don't believe it is a one glass solution, so it's not adhesed to the screen. You can actually see a little bit of a gap. There's 64 gigs of eMMC storage. Speeds of the NAND are pretty good and consistent across Android and Windows 10. However, the card expansion and also the USB dock speeds are pretty bad. Talking about the dock itself, touchpad is okay. It's not the best. However, the keyboard keys are really nice to touch on. The keyboard keys take a little getting used to, but once you get into the groove, they actually feel very nice. The pen itself is not a part of the tablet itself. It is just an active capacitive pen, so there is no pen digitizer for the Chuwi Hi10 Pro. What that means is that any device that uses a capacitive display will be able to use this pen. So any device pretty much past 2010 that had capacitive displays will be able to use this pen. So there is no pen digitizer specifically to this tablet. Build quality is also noteworthy in that it's machined very well and feels excellent in hand. So that's it for the lightning review. Now it's time for the very long review. Okay. So, this is the Windows 10 version of the Chuwi Hi10 Pro. It's 10.1 inches diagonally, 1920 by 1200, so it's 16 by 10 aspect ratio. Let's go ahead and jump into the settings. So as we can see right here, there is 10 points of touch. Can we see that? Yeah, you can see that. So there's 10 points of touch, 4 gigs of RAM, which we already touched on. Again, this will upclock to 1.92 gigahertz, but only for 2 cores. We could probably potentially take a look at some of the thermal throttling and try to really get the most out of this guy. I apologize for my hand. My camera will automatically focus on whatever the hell's in front of it. Every time I get one of these guys, I always kind of have to do my little deal and go through it. So again, this comes stock with the anniversary update. So you'll have 16.7 on there, which is great because these Android Windows tablets are really weird. When I say weird, I mean weird in respect to how they're partitioned. So one of my other reviews that I did an 8-inch tablet that you've seen. One of the things that I hated about it was that there was only 32 gigs of storage for the entire system. So right here you can see all the different partitions that are divided for having Android work and also having Windows loading. And you can see right there, this is the data partition for Android. So Android has 13 gigs of space, which effectively makes this like a 16 gigabyte tablet for Android, and then you can do SD expandability. So it's pretty good, not too bad. Like, I mean, technically speaking, we would want more, but it is totally usable, and also it's very usable between both operating systems, right? So I've done some stuff and I've installed some things, and I still have 27 gigs left on the Windows side of stuff, and I still have 12 gigs of space left on the Android side of stuff. So
Really, like as I was saying before, 64 gigs is the minimum, and it's totally passable. 4 gigs of RAM is really great. By default, Windows 10 is going to be more in like the 2 gigabyte range, but after I do my basic tweaks and stuff, I generally get it down to 1 gigabyte. This is so that the Windows Store can still work, Windows Update still works. By and large, this is a solid system now. So I have 3 gigs of RAM available for browsing, very, very light gaming, watching videos, and the like. I mean, as far as Windows being usable, this tablet is super nice for using Windows. Let's get into the review of the machine itself. Alright, so there's a lot to the Chuwi Hi10 Pro, and I'm going to try to compact a lot of this information as much as I possibly can, but it's probably going to be a super long video regardless. So I've done another video where I took a look at all the BIOS settings, because there are a tremendous amount of BIOS settings, pretty much similar to the GPD Win if you take a look at any of my GPD Win videos. So we can take a look at that. I just wanted to, initially I wanted to do this video by taking a look at the BIOS first, but I decided that looking at this video via the problems of the tablet first is a better way to do it. So one of the things that I want to show you was like taking that off doesn't feel very good. It is in super secure. It is magnetized, so you can see. So I don't know. It just doesn't feel like, I almost feel like I'm gonna rip the thing off when I take it off. So it is fine, and you can see that it magnetizes to the dock. It's kind of hard to show. There we go. So you saw it like jump up into it. So this is, fine, and it works good, and it's not going to fall off. So it is super secure. I just wish that it had almost a latch instead of using magnets, just because I feel like when I'm taking it off, it's not really designed right, or I'm going to break it. Maybe it's just a feeling, but I don't like taking it off like this. It just doesn't feel very good. So yeah, the other thing that I don't like, which is kind of nitpicky, I understand, but if we look at the tablet itself, obviously has this markings on the back. So it looks like from the top of the 2-in-1 that the back of the device actually looks like the bottom of the device. But the only problem is, for the keyboard dock, this also looks like the bottom of the device. So it effectively looks like it has 2 bottoms and no top. This one is a 2-in-1 tablet. So it's 2-in-1 in that the tablet and the keyboard can detach. Also, it's 2-in-1 in that it's Windows 10 and Android 5.1. So it's 2-in-1 2 times. Thank you very much for GearBest for providing this to review. They provided me this pen, this keyboard dock, and the tablet itself. The links for all of these things are located in the description field. There is a coupon for this pen and the keyboard dock. The neat thing about this pen, if you just wanted to buy it individually with a coupon code, is that it will work on any capacitive display, tablet, or phone. The reason for that is because it's a powered pen. When you can see that right here, that it activates. So it's micro USB charged, and there's a little coin cell battery in here. And the only thing that does is that it enables that this small tip, instead of those rounder, fatter pens, to allow it to be used on any capacitive device. So there's a few things. When they were sending this to me, I was under the assumption that this was a pen for this display, in that this has a pen digitizer to it. It does not. It only has 10-point capacitive touch. So basically, we can move these around, these windows around. We can press minimize. But if we go ahead and turn off this capacitive pen, and it's off, it no longer works. So the only thing that this does is when it powers up, this tip becomes capacitive, so that you can then go ahead and use this on any capacitive display. And there it goes again when it's powered on. So if you just wanted to buy this pen to use on a tablet or a phone that you own, because most tablets and phones are capacitive displays and this will work on it, that's pretty cool in and of itself. It's actually a really nice pen. But it's one of the... It's not a downside, but it was one of the things that I was hoping that it had a pen digitizer. So that aside, the only other thing that I don't like about this tablet is the connection to the dock itself. Outside of that, everything about this entire package is actually really cool. Let me go ahead and turn this off because we already showed it working. The keyboard itself, let's go ahead and take a look at that. The keyboard is actually really, really nice. The keys feel good. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll just test the keyboard real quick. This is a test of the keyboard for the Chuwi Hi10 Pro. The keys are very, very nice. They have a small chiclet style tone. Let's bring this up so you can see it a little bit better. They're not really raised. They don't have a bunch of travel, but they feel really good when you press on them. All the buttons feel really good. They're a little crowded. The enter key is small, but that's not too big of a problem. These keys right here, like, look at this key. It's just a tiny little key. I do like that they put it here. It's just super, super tiny. I really wish that the page up and page down were kind of moved as an FN key over here. This way the cursor keys would be by themselves. It's a little bit easier to feel around for them when you're using cursor keys. Outside of that, all the other keys are really nice. The touchpad is pretty good. Going up and down, look what we do here. So scrolling between apps, and we can see that distance and degrees of variables. There we go. It's not as good as the touchpad that I showed you earlier. I showed in my other review for that Jumper netbook. It's quite serviceable though. All right, so now we're in the Android side of things. Flip up in here. So as you can see, keyboard keys work. Also the mouse works, and we have a little mouse pointer on here. Obviously, touch still works. These are the apps that are installed by default, so not a whole bunch. I did not log into any account yet, so we should probably take a look at that. So we can take a look at how apps run. But altogether, there's a tremendous amount of RAM. 4 gigs of RAM is a tremendous amount for Android, and it runs really, really well. I will show you some apps in a moment, but I just want to show you real quick that this works and also these buttons work. So we'll go ahead and take a look at Android. We'll do some performance tests on Android. We'll do some performance tests on Windows. And then we'll see how everything is. All right. So as I've said before with these types of devices, especially for the tablet, for the Windows 10 Android tablet before, I much prefer Android as a tablet-only type of interface. The OS is just better designed for touch input as opposed to Windows 10, which kind of has it tacked on a little bit. I mean, it still works, but I really do prefer Android. Also, the 4 gigs of RAM does shine on this. This is the Antutu benchmark, so you can kind of compare what this tablet is compared to the other ones. You can see the 3D scores, UX, CPU, and RAM. I would try 2 pretty big games. So Vainglory is one of them. All right, I'll pause this while this does its thing. All right, so this is going to be, let's try to fix this a little bit so that we can get a better view of this. Right now, Vainglory is loading. This is just the tutorial screen, but it should be enough to demonstrate the capability of the device. So frame rate seems to be really good. The guy moving slow is kind of just his mobile ways. Because we can see from these guys that are moving far more fluid. So basic MOBA rules. Speaker-wise, it's pretty good too. Let's go ahead and put it at max. Let's lower that down again. So performance is pretty good, and Vainglory is one of a higher end Android games, especially for 3D performance. This is running pretty bad. Oh yeah, no, this is terrible. This is not good at all. So on the super high end of stuff, it also could just be because of the Intel CPU that is not optimized for the game. I know that the DS emulator on Android, its name is escaping me, made by Exophase. He has put in x86 improvements into his emulator, so it should work a lot better on these types of tablets. The build quality of the device is really nice. They have these chamfered edges and machined holes, and then these specific screws, but they look really nice. And those are these are the magnetic parts that kind of go in, and this is the pogo pins that branch out the USB connection for the keyboard dock. Here's your micro SD slot. Here's your USB-C charging. Here is micro USB for data, and that's micro HDMI, and that's 3.5mm audio jack, and that's a screw. Yeah, it's a screw. Power, volume up and down. That's mostly it. I can show you a little bit of the display. The viewing angles are excellent because it is an IPS display. It isn't there isn't adhesive, like, bonded to the screen. You can actually see a little bit of a gap right there. So it's not, that, what, I forget what the hell they call it, but there's a method where they basically adheses the glass display to the LCD just to create a very, very tight gap between the glass, and it's not the case because you can see that there's a visible ridge right there. This is a capacitive button right here that acts as the home button. So if we press here and then go to home, that works. Again, it's Android 5.1. You can see that if we go to the About tablet, and it's Android 5.1. So things like being able to store apps and stuff on micro SD is not going to be available. I don't anticipate actually this tablet going to Android 6. So it is kind of where it is. I wouldn't expect a whole bunch. You can see the 2 games that I installed, they still have 9.23 gigabytes available. Again, a lot of Android devices have 16 gigs available, so they're kind of still usable, quite usable in this state. And also mounting an SD card for media and other stuff makes the general gist of using this as an Android tablet passable. Additionally, the dock does work with this, and you can use the keyboard. So it is nice. I don't know why they put cameras on these things. The front-facing camera, sure, but a back-facing camera, I'm really not positive. It just seems like spending more money. But the build quality is very, very nice. I'm really impressed by it. I mean, that's the Chuwi 10. I'll probably jump into the BIOS now, so we can take a look at the BIOS options. Yeah, that's it. That's it for Android. This tablet is actually set up portrait mode, and then obviously it's flipped when it gets into the operating system. So without further ado, we can take a look at some of the stuff. You can see right here that says it's the Hi10 Pro. So this is, the name of the company is called Chuwi. I think it's Chuwi. I believe it's Chuwi. You can see that there's 4 gigs of RAM, which is excellent for these types of devices, where after I'm doing my configurations within Windows, it actually can become super usable. Additionally, there's 64 gigs of eMMC NAND flash storage, which is also great. Let's take a look at some of the BIOS options that we got here. It looks like we're actually able to get more than normal. Like how the GPD Win was, we had a bunch of options, and this looks like we have a ton of options as well. It's always nice. Oh, look, we can change the thermal configuration. So right here you can see it's the 8350, which is really cool. Let's take a look at the thermal configuration. So this is off for right now. Digital thermal sensor. What happens when we enable it? What do we get? Doesn't look like anything opens up when we enable that. CPU speed, that's 1440. It tops out at 1920, but only on 2 cores. 64-bit bidirectional. Intel virtualization technology is enabled. That's cool. So if you ever want to do any type of VirtualBox or VMware type of stuff, you can. Power technology. We can actually go ahead and do custom and then enable some other P states and C states, which is really cool. So this is already, I'm going to keep it on energy efficient. Again, I'm not pushing this too hard because I don't know how good of a heatsink is on here. I know by default it's all right. but I actually didn't even jump into this. Oh yes, this is just like the GPD Win where everything was available to you, so you can actually probably go pretty far with opening these guys up. So that's actually really cool that we have all these options. Allow high performance enabled. A lot of these things are kind of familiar to me. You can actually see my GPD Win video where I went through some of the performance settings. These are mostly the same. Android. Now this is neat. Silent Lake. Because this tablet actually is, not only is it a 2-in-1 tablet where the keyboard detaches and you can have it as a tablet alone, it'll also boot into either Android 5.1 or Windows 10. And the Windows 10 build is an anniversary edition, so it's 16.7. 1607. Network stack. Oh look, you can do Pixie booting. That's pretty friggin' cool. USB configuration. That all looks fine. Disabling this might prevent Windows from booting up. Alright. System component. S5 charging driver is disabled, but when you connect the USB-C port into this, when the device is powered off, it actually boots into its like subsystem, so it'll charge without being in an operating system. So that is there. Let's take a look at the North Bridge. Oh, super cool. Do not disable this, and do not disable this. If you disable the other one of those, you'll turn off the display, and you won't be able to see anything when you power it back on. Look at this. So we got all the stuff. Graphics boost, we can enable that. You can, we can boost that to max, but I mean, you really want to be careful because you only have, well, you can do it. Thermal disabled. It's an LG panel, and it's using the MIPI interface. So how the display actually connects to the motherboard is using this MIPI protocol. Pretty cool. Panel scaling. Graphics power management control. I've never seen this one before. Let's see. 2 ranks. So right now, that's curious. So we could put it at dual, which would be much better. I don't know if the RAM is actually aligned that way. It might not be. Meaning, like when we're running at single, what we're doing here is we're running at 64-bit width for memory, and the frequency is at 1067. The benefit of doing dual is you basically combine two 64-bit channels into one, so you have a 128-bit wide memory channel. But it's set to single, and I honestly don't know how it's set up, because it needs to be on the correct channel, right? So it needs to be on bank 0 and 2 or 1 and 3. So if that's not set up correctly, let's see. Oh yeah, no, there's only one stick of RAM right there. You can actually see it. So it's memory slot 0, and it's just a 4 gigabyte DIMM just by itself. And there is nothing, and so it can only be a single slot. So you can't do dual. Okay, so well, we know that. Audio configuration. I got a lot of options in here. I always love having a ton of options in the BIOS, just because it lets us kind of do whatever the hell we want with it. All these different USB ports, I assume that's because of this guy right here, this keyboard breakout. SATA clock. SDC, so what can we change to your PCI mode? That's curious. Okay. eMMC driving operator mode. Yeah, faster frequency is always good. Move my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on down there. GPS enabled. I don't know if this actually has a GPS in there. We'll take a look in the device manager. I don't recall there being anything there. Wow, look at all these options. This actually has more options than the GBD Win. Like the PC, these we're not doing anything with these PCI Express slots. There's nothing for us to connect to. So that's the South Bridge. No, let's keep looking. Security. Okay. USB LAN. Look at that. We can do so for Pixie booting. That's pretty cool. Boot option 1. So now this is pretty cool, and I'll show it to you real quick. We don't have to do anything here. We'll just discard changes and exit. I quit without saving. So by default, when you start up your machine, you can either select Android or Windows 10.